Welcome back to the channel, USA Coins 69, Coin Collectors and Curious Minds. Today, we're diving deep into the story of one of the most iconic and widely recognized coins in the world, the United States Lincoln 1-cent coin. But not just any penny. We're talking about the year 1966, a year that hides some fascinating mysteries and opportunities for collectors. If you've ever held a penny in your hand and thought, it's just 1 cent, think again, because what we're about to uncover could literally change your view on pocket change forever. So sit back, relax, and let's take a journey through time, history, and the hidden world of rare and valuable coins. The Lincoln penny has been part of American life since 1909, when it was introduced to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real person, and not just any person, but one of the most respected presidents in American history. Fast forward to 1966. The country was deep in the heart of the 1960s, an era filled with cultural revolution, space exploration, and profound political change. The Vietnam War was underway. Civil rights movements were reshaping society. And amid all of this, the United States Mint was making a curious change, something that most people didn't even notice. That year, the Mint did something unusual. It stopped using mint marks on coins. You see, most U.S. coins bear a small letter indicating where they were made, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. But in 1965, 1966, and 1967, those mint marks were left off intentionally. This was part of an effort to discourage coin collecting during a national coin shortage. Sounds strange, right? But it's true. The U.S. Mint actually thought that coin collecting was making it harder for people to get change at the store, so they temporarily removed mint marks to make coins less appealing to collectors. But here's where it gets interesting, because the 1966 Lincoln penny had no visible mint mark, most people thought there was nothing special about it. It was just another common coin. But over the years, collectors and experts have discovered that this unassuming little penny might not be so ordinary after all. Let's talk about the coin's features for a moment. On the front, you have that timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. Just above his head, the words, "In God We Trust." To the left, the word "Liberty." And to the right, the year, 1966. Turn it over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, standing tall in incredible detail, along with the phrases "United States of America" and "E pluribus unum," which means, out of many, one. But don't let the familiar design fool you. What makes the 1966 Lincoln penny so fascinating is what can't be seen at first glance. Most of these pennies were made from copper, specifically, 95% copper and 5% zinc. That's what gives them that distinct reddish-brown glow when freshly minted. But with millions of these coins being made and circulated, only a few have survived in perfect or near-perfect condition. And even fewer have mysterious features or errors that make them stand out in the world of numismatics. You might be wondering, what could possibly make a 1-cent coin from 1966 worth anything more than a penny? The answer lies in a few key areas: rarity, condition, and most importantly, error. Over the years, collectors have come across 1966 Lincoln pennies with unusual traits. Some have double dies, meaning the design was struck twice, creating a ghost-like image on parts of the coin. Others have off-center strikes, where the coin's design is misaligned, revealing blank space or overlapping features. Then there are those with die cracks, filled letters, or planchet errors, where the metal itself was flawed before the coin was even struck. These kinds of mint errors are incredibly rare, and when they show up on a coin from a year where mint marks were intentionally removed, it makes them even more desirable. Combine that with a coin in brilliant, uncirculated condition, free from scratches, fingerprints, or wear, and you have something truly special. But wait, there's more. Some extremely rare 1966 Lincoln pennies have been discovered that may have come from experimental runs or unexpected minting processes. These coins were possibly struck with leftover dies or on the wrong metal planchets entirely. These kinds of coins, when authenticated by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, become hot items at auction. So, what does this all mean for you? It means that the next time you dig through a change jar, sort through an old coin collection, or come across a dusty penny from the 1960s, don't just toss it aside. Look closely. Examine the details. Use a magnifying glass if you have to. Because you might be holding something far more valuable than you realize, and now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Just how much can a 1966 Lincoln penny be worth if it has the right combination of rarity, error, and pristine condition? Are you ready? Some of these rare finds, especially those with certified mint errors or extremely high grades, have been known to sell for as much as $50,000. Yes, you heard that right. A penny. Worth $50,000. So before you say, it's just a cent, remember that every coin has a story, and some are worth far more than their face value. Keep looking, keep collecting, and keep believing that treasure might just be hiding in the most unexpected places. Today's video might make you think twice before doing that again. Because in this episode, we're exploring a coin that millions of people have handled without realizing its potential, until now. We're talking about the 1960 Lincoln 1-cent coin from the United States of America. At first glance, it might look like your average penny, but dig a little deeper and you'll uncover a fascinating history, a handful of rare variations, and a secret that could make this 1-cent piece worth a fortune. Let's take a trip back in time to the year 1960. Dwight D. Eisenhower was finishing his presidency, John F. Kennedy was preparing to take office, and America was on the verge of a cultural transformation. The space race was heating up, Elvis Presley was topping the charts, and the country was buzzing with optimism. In the middle of all this, the U.S. Mint was quietly producing millions of Lincoln pennies, continuing a legacy that began all the way back in 1909. But what makes the 1960 Lincoln penny stand out from other years is something most people never noticed unless they were true collectors. That year, the Mint produced two different date varieties, one with a small date and one with a large date. That's right, two versions of the same coin, with the only difference being the size of the numbers in the date. Now, to the average person, the difference between a small and large date might seem insignificant. But to coin collectors, it's a game changer. Because not only are there two styles, but each of those styles was minted in different locations, giving us multiple combinations, some of which are incredibly rare and highly valuable today. Let's break it down a bit. First, you've got the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not include a mint mark on the coins. Then there's the Denver Mint, which is marked with a small d under the year. So in 1960, there were large date and small date pennies struck at both mints. But here's where it gets interesting: the 1960 D small date penny, in particular, turned out to be much scarcer than its large date counterpart. While the Denver Mint produced a huge number of pennies that year, the majority were the large date variety. Only a small percentage were the small date design, and fewer still have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, and we haven't even talked about mint errors yet. That's where things get even more exciting. Some 1960 Lincoln pennies feature rare and unusual errors that occurred during the minting process. These include double die obverse coins, where the design appears slightly doubled, especially noticeable in the date and lettering. These kinds of errors are highly prized among collectors because they are rare, easily recognizable, and often completely unique. There have also been examples of repunched mint marks, where the small d mint mark was struck more than once and misaligned, creating a shadow or doubling effect. These subtle differences, invisible to most casual observers, are like gold mines to numismatists. What makes the 1960 penny even more compelling is the challenge of spotting these valuable traits. You could hold a rare variety in your hand and never even know it without a closer look. That's what makes collecting coins so exciting. It's part history, part mystery, and part treasure hunt. Let's talk about condition, because that's another key factor in determining value. Most 1960 pennies were used and abused over the years. They jingled in pockets, fell through couch cushions, and clattered through vending machines. But if you happen to find one that's been preserved in brilliant uncirculated condition, or better yet, graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC at a high level, say MS 65 or above, then you're really onto something. Imagine having a coin that most people would overlook, tucked away in an old jar or collection, and finding out that it's not only rare but also in flawless condition. That's where the magic happens. Because the value of these coins isn't just based on age, it's a perfect storm of rarity, error, condition, and demand from passionate collectors all over the world. So now, you're probably asking yourself the big question: what is this coin actually worth? Well, in circulated condition, a 1960 penny might only bring in a few cents to a few dollars, depending on the variety. But once you start dealing with rare errors, small date rarities, and coins in superb condition, the numbers begin to climb fast. And now, here it is, there are verified cases where a rare 1960 Lincoln penny, specifically, a Denver small date variety in near perfect condition, or one with a rare double die or repunched mint mark, has sold for as much as $55,000. Yes, you heard that right. $55,000. For a penny. So next time you find yourself sorting through old change, take a moment to look closer. That dull little coin might just be your golden ticket. And that's what makes coin collecting so thrilling, because you never know when history, rarity, and value will come together in the palm of your hand. Today, we're zooming in on a coin that most people overlook every single day, a small, copper-colored circle that might be hiding a massive secret. It's the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from the year 1967. Now you might be thinking, a 1967 penny? Really? Isn't that just common change? Well, not exactly. Because the truth is, not all pennies are created equal. And this particular year has a story, a mystery, and a twist that just might leave you speechless. So don't blink, because by the end of this video, you'll see how this 1-cent coin could be worth a jaw-dropping fortune. Let's set the stage. The year is 1967. The Vietnam War is dominating headlines, anti-war protests are sweeping across American cities, and people are glued to their televisions watching the space race unfold. It's a time of upheaval, change, and reinvention. And in the middle of all this, the United States Mint was quietly producing billions of Lincoln pennies, yes, billions, with something very unusual going on behind the scenes. If you've ever collected coins before, you know that US coins almost always feature something called a mint mark, a tiny letter that tells you where the coin was made. It could be a P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. These little letters are a huge deal in the coin world because they can make the difference between a coin that's worth pocket change and one that's worth thousands. But here's the twist: in 1967, the US Mint made a surprising decision. They did not include any mint marks on the pennies. That's right, every single Lincoln cent from that year, no matter where it was minted, was made without a mint mark. Why? Because the government was dealing with a coin shortage, and they believed that collectors were hoarding too many coins. So, to discourage people from collecting, they removed mint marks altogether for a short period, from 1965 through 1967. This move confused collectors and added a layer of mystery to these coins. And even today, people still ask, where were these coins actually minted? And more importantly, are there any hidden variants, rare errors, or special editions that slipped through the cracks during this strange minting period? The answer is yes. Even though all 1967 pennies technically have no mint mark, there are several factors that can make one of these coins incredibly valuable. The first and most important is condition. Most pennies from this year were heavily circulated. They went through cash registers, vending machines, lunch counters, and pocket after pocket. So finding a 1967 penny in mint state condition, untouched by time and wear, is already a rare achievement. But there's more. Some 1967 pennies were struck with errors, mistakes that happened during the minting process. And in the world of coin collecting, an error doesn't mean a flaw. It means opportunity. It means rarity. It means value. We're talking about things like double dies, where the coin design is accidentally struck twice, creating a ghost-like image in the date or lettering. Or off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, leaving parts of the coin blank. Then there are die cracks, where the minting press itself had a flaw, creating raised lines on the coin. And even more elusive, coins struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the penny was accidentally minted on a coin blank meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. These kinds of errors are not just rare, they are highly sought after by collectors, who are willing to pay serious money for a unique piece. And here's something else to keep in mind, because 1967 was a year with no mint marks. It makes identifying the origin of any error coin even more intriguing. That mystery adds value. That confusion creates excitement. And for collectors, that means competition, and higher prices at auctions. Now imagine this, you find a 1967 penny that has one of these rare minting errors. Maybe it's a double die. Maybe it was struck off-center. Maybe the copper color looks slightly different, suggesting it was struck on an experimental planchet. Then you realize, it's in near-perfect condition. No scratches. No dents. No discoloration. It's been sitting untouched in an old box, safe from the decades of where most coins have faced. You send it off to a professional grading service. It comes back with a high mint state grade, let's say MS 67 or higher. That's when collectors start paying attention. That's when the bidding wars begin. And that's when your simple penny could turn into something you never expected. So here it is. The moment you've been waiting for. There are confirmed instances, documented, verified sales, where rare error coins from 1967, in immaculate condition, have sold for as much as $75,000. Yes, you heard that right. $75,000. For a penny. Now think about that for a second, that coin you've ignored 100 times, the one tossed into jars, dropped in parking lots, forgotten at the bottom of drawers. That tiny piece of copper could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a year's salary, even more than some houses. All because of its rarity, its condition, and its story. So before you toss your change in the donation box or slide it into a vending machine, take a second to look. You might just be holding a hidden gem, a coin with history, with mystery, and with value far beyond its face. Today's story might completely flip that thought on its head. Because we're about to take a closer look at a coin that seems incredibly ordinary. Until you learn its secrets, get ready to unlock the story of the 1961 Lincoln penny, a tiny copper coin that could be hiding in your pocket, your old coin jar, or your family's coin collection right now. And it might be worth far, far more than you think. Let's begin in the early 1960s. America was in the midst of a boom. John F. Kennedy had just taken the presidency. The Cold War was intensifying. The space race was moving full speed ahead. Across the country, families were watching black and white TVs, cars were growing tail fins, and a candy bar still cost a nickel. But behind the scenes, at the U.S. Mint, something remarkable was happening. The year 1961 saw the production of billions of Lincoln cents, those classic, copper-colored coins with President Abraham Lincoln's profile proudly displayed on the obverse. Introduced in 1909, the Lincoln penny had already become a staple of American life. But like with every year, not all pennies are created equal. And the 1961 batch? Well, let's just say a few of them are very special. Now, when you look at a 1961 Lincoln penny, what's the first thing you notice? Most likely, it's that familiar face of Lincoln himself. To the right of his profile, the date, 1961. Underneath the date, you might see a tiny letter, usually a D, for the Denver Mint, or no letter at all if it came from Philadelphia. That small mint mark might seem insignificant, but it could mean the difference between a coin worth a cent and one worth thousands. Here's WHY.IN 1961, the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln cents at two primary locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Denver Mint coins bear a D mint mark, while Philadelphia coins, as was tradition at the time, had no mint mark at all. Both types were struck in huge numbers, but only a small fraction of these coins were preserved in flawless condition. And an even smaller fraction had errors, those rare, unexpected mistakes that turn regular coins into collectibles. So, what should you be looking for in a 1961 Lincoln penny? Let's start with repunched mint marks, one of the most famous varieties from that year. This happens when the Denver Mint small d was punched more than once in slightly different positions, creating a visible doubling effect. These RPM, repunched mint mark, coins are prized among collectors, especially when the doubling is strong and easy to see without magnification. but it gets better. Some 1961 pennies feature double die errors, where the entire image on one side of the coin was struck twice, slightly misaligned. This can cause letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's profile to appear doubled, almost like a shadow. These mistakes were not meant to happen, but when they did, they created something far more valuable than a regular penny. And then there are die cracks, die chips, and off-center strikes, where the design is visibly misaligned, or part of the coin is blank. Each of these errors is rare, and when combined with high-grade preservation, they become truly valuable. Now, let's talk about condition, because this is where everything can change. Most pennies from 1961 were heavily circulated. They rattled through cash registers, dropped on sidewalks, and got lost between couch cushions. After all, they were just pennies. But a few lucky coins avoided that rough life. They were kept in coin rolls, collector books, or hidden away by someone who recognized their potential. These coins, in mint state condition, especially those graded MS-65, MS-66, or higher, can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars on the collector's market. And if the coin is both in superb condition and has a rare mint error? Well, now we're talking about a whole different league. You see, coin collectors and dealers all over the world are constantly hunting for coins like these. They're watching auctions, examining collections, and bidding big when a rare piece comes to light. Because they know that certain combinations, like a 1961 D penny with a bold repunched mint mark, in near-perfect condition, are incredibly hard to find, and when rarity meets demand, prices skyrocket. So here's the million-dollar question. Could a penny from 1961 actually be worth real money today, more than just a few bucks? More than just pocket change? Well, you might want to check your coin jars, your old piggy banks, or that collection your grandparents passed down. Because if you find one of these rare varieties, especially a coin with a strong repunched mint mark, or a dramatic doubling error, and it's in uncirculated or pristine condition, then yes, you're sitting on something special. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. There are documented cases where a rare, high-grade 1961 Lincoln penny, with a sharp repunched mint mark or a clear doubling error, has sold to collectors for as much as $78,000. That's right. $78,000. For one penny. Think about that. Something so small, so seemingly insignificant, could hold the power to change your financial future. If you know what to look for. So before you brush off your old change, take another look. You might be holding a piece of American history, a minting mistake turned masterpiece, a hidden treasure disguised as a common coin. Today, we're taking a closer look at a coin that millions of people have handled, spent, and even tossed aside without a second thought. It's small, copper-colored, and for most of us, it's just a penny, but not this one. Because today, we're talking about the 1981 Lincoln penny, a coin that might look like every other cent you've seen, but under the surface, it holds a history, a mystery, and for a few lucky people out there, a fortune. Let's rewind the clock to 1981. Ronald Reagan had just been elected president. MTV didn't exist yet. IBM was about to launch the personal computer. America was standing at the edge of a new era. But over at the United States Mint, something else was happening, something that, decades later, would make coin collectors around the world pay very, very close attention. Now, you've probably seen a 1981 penny before. Maybe you even have a few in your change right now. On the front, you've got that iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, with the words, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the date, 1981, stamped clearly to the right. And just beneath that date, if your coin was minted in Denver, you'll see a small D mint mark. If there's no mint mark at all, it came from Philadelphia. Simple, right? Well, not so fast. What most people don't realize is that 1981 was a turning point in the history of the Lincoln penny. It was the final full year the U.S. Mint produced pennies using the 95% copper, 5% zinc composition, the same formula that had been used for decades. Why is that important? Because starting in 1982, the penny would change forever, switching to a cheaper, lighter zinc-based core with just a thin layer of copper on the outside. That change made 1981 the end of an era, the last stand of the classic, heavy, copper penny. And that alone gives the 1981 cent added historical value. But that's just the beginning, because there's something else that makes certain 1981 pennies incredibly special. Something even most collectors didn't notice until years later. It all comes down to varieties and minting errors. In 1981, the U.S. Mint was using two different styles of lettering for the word Liberty and the date. These are known as Type 1 and Type 2 dies. The differences are subtle, especially to the untrained eye, but they matter a lot. On the San Francisco minted proof coins, for example, Type 1 features a more rounded, blurry appearance, while Type 2 has sharper, clearer lettering. The Type 2 proofs are far rarer and much more desirable among collectors. Now, even though most 1981 business strike pennies didn't use these dies, some collectors have discovered crossover examples, coins that appear to show characteristics of proof dies on non-proof coins. These unusual blends are extremely rare and often surrounded by speculation, but one thing is certain: coins with these anomalies command attention and high prices. But let's go deeper. Because 1981 is also known for a handful of extraordinary minting errors that slipped through the cracks. We're talking about coins struck on the wrong planchet, like a penny that was accidentally struck on a dime blank, making it thinner, lighter, and silver-colored instead of copper. Or coins with double dies, where parts of the design appear to have a shadow or second impression. These are not common. But when they're real, they're worth serious money. Now imagine this. You're going through an old box of coins, maybe something your grandfather saved, or something you've kept in a drawer for years. You pull out a 1981 penny. It looks a little different. Maybe the color is off. Maybe the letters look strange. Maybe the coin feels slightly thinner than usual. You take a closer look, or even better, send it off to a professional grading service, and what comes back is the confirmation: it's an ultra-rare mint error, in pristine condition, with either a dramatic misstrike, a rare die variety, or a proof-like finish on a business strike coin. This is the kind of find that makes headlines in coin auctions and gets collectors buzzing, because coin collecting isn't just about old metal. It's about hunting for clues, decoding history, and occasionally, discovering something that no one else has. Something rare. Something valuable. Something unforgettable. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1981 pennies are worth just 1 cent and a place in your pocket, there are confirmed cases where a rare mint error, paired with uncirculated or proof-like condition, has driven prices higher than anyone could have expected. In fact, certain 1981 Lincoln pennies, those struck on the wrong planchet, or with extraordinary doubling or rare die varieties, and preserved in top-grade condition, have sold to collectors for as much as $98,000. Yes, you heard that right. $98,000. For a penny. So the next time you come across a 1981 Lincoln cent, don't just pass it off as spare change. Take a closer look. It could be hiding an error. It could be a rare variety. It could be a piece of American history, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for.